There comes a point in life when you realize that no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, there will always be people who will test your patience. They will criticize you, misunderstand you, challenge you, and sometimes even try to bring you down. And if you allow them to, they will steal your peace. But what if I told you that you could become untouchable? That you could reach a level where nothing and no one could make you angry or shake your inner peace? That no words, no judgments, no negativity could ever get under your skin? The secret is not about controlling others, it's about mastering yourself. Most people go through life believing that they can somehow control the way others think, behave, or react. They get frustrated when people don't meet their expectations, when someone speaks rudely to them, or when things don't go the way they had hoped. This frustration often turns into anger because they believe, even if unconsciously, that they should have some influence over the actions of others. But the reality is that we have zero control over how people behave. We cannot dictate how they think, how they speak, or how they respond to situations. The only thing we can ever truly control is our own reaction. Imagine walking outside on a windy day. The wind is strong, pushing against you, making it harder to walk. You could get angry at the wind. You could yell at it. Complain about how inconvenient it is and wish that it would stop. But no matter how much you get upset, the wind will continue to blow. The only logical response is to accept that the wind exists and adjust accordingly, maybe wear a jacket, walk in a different direction, or simply embrace the challenge and move forward. This is exactly how we should approach people and situations in life. People are going to do what they want, say what they want, and act how they want, regardless of how we feel about it. Getting angry at them is like yelling at the wind. It serves no purpose other than exhausting us emotionally. When we accept this truth, we stop wasting our energy trying to change people, and instead, we focus on what we can control: our own response, our own mindset, and our own inner peace. But think about the last time you were frustrated because of someone else's behavior. Maybe a coworker was rude to you. Maybe a stranger cut you off in traffic. Maybe a friend didn't respond the way you expected. In that moment, what was your initial thought? Most likely, it was something like, "They shouldn't have done that," or "That was so disrespectful." But take a step back and ask yourself, why are you assuming that people should behave the way you want them to? Why are you giving them control over your emotions? The problem is not what they did, but rather the expectation you had that they should have acted differently. The moment you stop expecting people to behave a certain way, you free yourself from frustration. If someone is rude, that's on them. If someone lies, that's on them. If someone betrays your trust, that's on them. Their actions belong to them, not to you. And when you detach from the illusion that you can control others, you gain incredible emotional power. This shift in perspective is life-changing. Instead of thinking, "Why did they do that?" you start thinking, "That's just who they are." Instead of saying, "They shouldn't have treated me that way," you begin saying, "I can't control how they act, but I can control how I respond." This doesn't mean you become passive or tolerate toxic behavior. It simply means you stop allowing other people's actions to dictate your inner peace. There's a profound sense of freedom that comes when you release the need to control others. You start to see people exactly as they are, instead of who you wish they would be. You stop getting upset when someone disappoints you because you understand that it's not your job to change them. You stop reacting to negativity because you realize that other people's emotions are not your responsibility. You stop getting angry because you no longer expect the world to bend to your will. The truth is, most people live in a state of emotional chaos because they are constantly trying to control things that are outside their power. They want the traffic to move faster. They want their partner to communicate differently. They want their boss to appreciate them more. And when these things don't happen, they feel frustrated and angry. But the moment you surrender the need for control and accept reality as it is, you unlock a level of peace that most people will never experience. Life becomes lighter. Situations that once triggered you no longer have the same effect. You stop wasting energy on things that don't serve you. You realize that your power is not in controlling the world, it's in controlling yourself. And that is the greatest power of all. One of the biggest reasons people get angry or bothered by others is because they take things personally. When someone makes a rude comment, ignores them, or acts in a way that feels disrespectful, their immediate reaction is to assume that it's directed at them, as if it's a personal attack. But the truth is, what other people say and do has far more to do with them than it does with you. Their words, their actions, their negativity, it's all a reflection of their own inner state, their own emotions, and their own emotions, and their own struggles. The moment you internalize this, you stop allowing their behavior to affect you. Imagine someone walks into a room and starts insulting everyone. They call one person stupid, another person weak, another person useless. If you listen to them, you might feel offended. You might think, how could they say that about me? But if you take a step back and analyze the situation, you'll realize something important. They are saying negative things about everyone, not just you. This means their words aren't based on truth. They're based on their own bitterness, their own unhappiness, or their own personal issues. So why should you take it personally? If someone's negativity is a reflection of them, why let it affect your peace? Most people who lash out, criticize, or bring others down are doing so because of something unresolved inside them. Maybe they are insecure. Maybe they've been hurt in the past. Maybe they don't know how to express their emotions in a healthy way. Whatever the reason, their negativity is not about you, it's about them. When you understand this deeply, you stop reacting emotionally. You stop letting their words get under your skin. You stop feeling like a victim because you realize that their behavior has nothing to do with your worth. Think about the last time someone was rude to you. Maybe they dismissed your ideas, raised their voice, or made a passive-aggressive remark. Your first instinct might have been to get upset, to defend yourself, or to replay the situation in your mind over and over. But instead of asking, why did they treat me this way? Try asking, what must they be going through to act like that? Suddenly, the situation shifts. You start to see them not as an enemy, but as a person dealing with their own struggles. You start to detach emotionally because you recognize that their behavior is not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of them. This doesn't mean that people's actions are acceptable. It doesn't mean you should tolerate disrespect, but it does mean that you stop taking their behavior as a personal attack. When someone criticizes you, it's often because they see something in you that triggers their own insecurities. When someone gossips about you, it's usually because they are projecting their own fears or weaknesses. When someone tries to make you feel small, it's because they feel small themselves. The way people treat others is a mirror of how they feel inside. When they are at peace, they spread peace. When they are in turmoil, they spread negativity. Once you realize this, you stop absorbing other people's emotions. You stop reacting every time someone says something rude. You stop feeling hurt by people who don't even truly know you. You stop wasting your energy on things that don't deserve it. Instead, you become untouchable. You develop emotional resilience. You create a shield of inner strength that no insult, no criticism, and no negativity can break. If a stranger came up to you and said, "The sky is green," would you get angry? Probably not, because you know it's not true. The same logic applies to insults and negativity. Just because someone says something about you doesn't make it true. The moment you stop taking things personally, you take back control of your emotions. You become free from the opinions of others. You no longer live at the mercy of people's words or actions. You realize that your value is not determined by what others think of you, but by how you see yourself. Your mind is your most valuable asset, and yet most people allow just anyone to enter it. They allow negative words, toxic opinions, and useless distractions to take up space in their thoughts. This is like leaving the door of your house wide open and letting strangers walk in, make a mess, and destroy your peace. If you wouldn't allow just anyone to invade your home, why allow negativity to invade your mind? Protecting your mental space is one of the most important skills you can develop if you want to remain unbothered and emotionally strong. Every day, you encounter things that try to pull you into negativity, criticism, complaints, gossip, social media debates, and endless distractions. If you're not careful, your mind becomes cluttered with things that don't serve you. You start overthinking someone's rude comment. You replay an argument in your head. You let the opinions of others dictate how you feel. And before you know it, your peace is gone. But the truth is, you have the power to decide what you allow into your mind. You can choose to guard your mental space the same way you would protect your home from intruders. One of the biggest ways people lose control over their mental space is by giving too much attention to negativity. If someone says something hurtful, they dwell on it for hours, days, or even weeks. They analyze it. take it personally, and allow it to ruin their mood. But here's the reality: just because someone says something doesn't mean you have to accept it. You don't have to carry their words with you. You don't have to let their negativity become your burden. You have the choice to reject it, to dismiss it, and to move on without letting it affect your peace. Imagine walking through a marketplace where people are shouting different things. Some are selling products, some are arguing, some are making jokes, and some are spreading rumors. If you stopped and listened to every single voice, you would never move forward. You would be stuck in one place, overwhelmed by noise. But if you ignore the distractions and stay focused on where you're going, you remain in control. This is exactly how the mind works. Every day, people will say things, do things, and create noise around you. But you don't have to let it all in. You don't have to engage with every negative comment, every drama, or every pointless argument. You can stay focused, protect your peace, and keep moving forward. Another way people allow negativity into their minds is through constant exposure to toxic environments. This can be the news, social media, or even certain people in their lives. If all you consume is negativity, fear, and drama, your mind will naturally become stressed and restless. But when you become selective about what you allow and choosing to focus on positive, uplifting, and productive things, you take control of your mental space. This doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means being intentional about where you place your energy. There will always be people who try to bring negativity into your life. Some will criticize you for no reason. Some will spread rumors. Some will try to bring you down just because they don't want to see you succeed. But none of this matters unless you give it attention. A negative comment only has power if you engage with it. An insult only affects you if you take it personally. A distraction only derails you if you allow it to. When you become disciplined about what you focus on, you become immune to negativity. Protecting your mental space is not about avoiding challenges or pretending problems don't exist. It's about choosing what deserves your attention. It's about deciding where your energy goes. It's about understanding that not every battle is worth fighting. Not every comment needs a response. And not every negative thought deserves your time. When you take control of your mind, you take control of your emotions, your reactions, and ultimately, your life. One of the most powerful habits you can develop to stay in control of your emotions is mastering the pause. In a world where people react instantly to everything, the ability to pause before responding is a rare and valuable skill. Most people let their emotions dictate their reactions. The moment they feel offended, disrespected, or frustrated, they lash out without thinking. But reacting immediately almost always leads to regret. Harsh words are spoken, relationships are damaged, and situations escalate unnecessarily. If you want to be unshakable, you must train yourself to pause before you respond. Imagine someone insults you or says something rude. The natural reaction for most people is to fire back, defend themselves, or show their anger. But if you pause for just a few seconds, something incredible happens. That short moment of silence gives you the power to choose your response rather than letting emotions control you. Instead of reacting with anger, you can respond with wisdom. Instead of making the situation worse, you can rise above it. The pause is where self-control is built. In that brief moment of pause, you get to ask yourself important questions. Does this situation really deserve my energy? Will this matter a year from now? Is responding emotionally going to help me? Or is it just going to make things worse? More often than not, when you take a moment to pause, you realize that most things are not worth getting upset over. You recognize that reacting in anger doesn't change the situation, it only disturbs your peace. And when you master this pause, you gain an incredible advantage in life. The ability to pause also prevents you from being manipulated. Some people intentionally provoke others just to get a reaction. They enjoy seeing others lose their temper because it gives them a sense of power. But when you pause and stay calm, you take that power away from them. You show that you are in control, that you are not easily shaken, and that their words have no effect on you. This kind of emotional discipline makes you untouchable. Pausing before responding is not just useful in negative situations, it is also essential in decision-making. When you are faced with a challenge, a stressful situation, or an important choice, reacting impulsively can lead to mistakes. But when you take a moment to breathe, step back, and think things through, you make wiser decisions. You allow yourself the time to respond with logic instead of emotion. You gain clarity, and you avoid unnecessary stress. Training yourself to pause is a skill that requires practice. It doesn't happen overnight, but the more you do it, the stronger your self-control becomes. One of the best ways to develop this habit is by practicing mindfulness. When you feel triggered, take a deep breath. Count to 5 if necessary. Remind yourself that you are in control of your reactions. At first, it may feel difficult, especially in moments of high emotion, but over time, it becomes second nature. The power of the pause extends beyond personal situations. It also strengthens relationships. Many conflicts, whether in friendships, families, or workplaces, happen because people react without thinking. A small misunderstanding turns into a big argument simply because neither person took a moment to pause before speaking. When you learn to pause, you improve your ability to communicate effectively. You listen more, you understand better, and you respond in a way that builds rather than destroys. Another incredible benefit of mastering the pause is that it keeps you from saying or doing things you'll regret. How many times have people said something in the heat of the moment only to wish they could take it back? How many relationships have been damaged because of impulsive reactions? The pause saves you from these regrets. It allows you to process your emotions before they take control of you. It gives you the space to decide whether something is even worth your attention. Mastering the pause is the difference between reacting like everyone else and responding like a person who is truly in control. It separates those who are ruled by emotions from those who have mastered their minds. It gives you the ability to remain calm in situations where most people lose control. And when you develop this habit, you become someone who is never easily angered, never easily bothered, and always in command of your emotions. Expectations are one of the biggest sources of frustration and anger. Most people don't realize that the reason they get upset with others is not because of what actually happened, but because of what they expected to happen. They assume that people should behave a certain way, treat them with a certain level of respect, or react in a way that aligns with their own values. But the moment someone does something different from what they expected, disappointment sets in and frustration follows. If you want to stop getting angry or bothered by others, you must learn to manage your expectations. People are unpredictable. They have their own perspectives, their own experiences, and their own way of seeing the world. Expecting them to always act according to your standards is unrealistic. The more you expect from people, the more you set yourself up for disappointment. But when you lower your expectations and accept people as they are, not as you wish them to be, you free yourself from unnecessary frustration. This doesn't mean you should have no standards or tolerate disrespect, but it does mean that you stop assuming that people will always meet your personal expectations. Think about how many times you felt let down by someone. Maybe a friend didn't support you the way you expected. Maybe a coworker didn't acknowledge your hard work. Maybe a family member said something hurtful. The disappointment you felt was not just because of their actions, but because you expected them to do something different. If you had no expectation in the first place, their behavior wouldn't have had the same emotional impact. When you manage your expectations, you protect yourself from unnecessary pain. This applies to every area of life. If you expect people to always be kind, you will be upset when they are rude. If you expect people to always be honest, you will feel betrayed when they lie. If you expect people to always agree with you, you will be frustrated when they don't. The problem is not that people fail to meet expectations. The problem is that expectations were set in the first place. By shifting your mindset and understanding that people will act however they choose, regardless of what you expect, you develop emotional resilience. This does not mean you should become cynical or expect the worst from everyone. It simply means you should be realistic. Accept that people are flawed. Accept that not everyone will think the way you do. Accept that people have their own priorities, struggles, and beliefs that may not align with yours. When you do this, you start to approach life with a sense of calm. You stop taking things so personally. You stop feeling betrayed when someone doesn't act the way you hoped. You gain the ability to navigate life without being constantly disappointed. Another benefit of managing expectations is that it allows you to appreciate people more. When you stop expecting people to be a certain way, you start to notice and value the good things they do, rather than focusing on what they didn't do. You begin to appreciate kindness when it comes, rather than being upset when it doesn't. You start to see people for who they are, rather than who you want them to be. This shift in perspective leads to better relationships, deeper connections, and a greater sense of peace. Many people create unnecessary suffering for themselves simply by expecting too much from the world. They expect traffic to move quickly, and when it doesn't, they get frustrated. They expect customer service to be perfect, and when it isn't, they lose their temper. They expect people to always be considerate, and when they're not, they feel offended. But the world doesn't operate based on personal expectations. Life unfolds as it will, regardless of how we think it should. Learning to adapt rather than expect is the key to emotional freedom. When you manage your expectations, you also take back control of your happiness. Instead of placing your happiness in the hands of others, hoping that they will act a certain way, you take responsibility for your own emotions. You realize that external factors do not have to dictate how you feel. You understand that peace comes from within, not from how others behave. The less you expect from people, the less they have the power to upset you. The more you accept reality as it is, the more unshakable you become. Self-awareness is one of the most powerful tools for staying calm and unbothered in any situation. When you understand yourself deeply, your triggers, emotions, and reactions, you gain control over how you respond to the world around you. Many people go through life reacting to situations without understanding why. They get angry, frustrated, or upset without realizing that their emotions are not caused by external events, but by their internal perceptions. When you develop self-awareness, you stop being controlled by outside forces and start mastering your own mind. One of the most important aspects of self-awareness is recognizing your triggers. Everyone has certain situations, words, or actions that set them off. Maybe it's when someone interrupts you, criticizes you, or disrespects your boundaries. Maybe it's when you feel ignored, unappreciated, or misunderstood. These triggers are often rooted in past experiences, insecurities, or personal beliefs. The key is to identify them and understand why they affect you. The moment you become aware of your triggers, you begin to take control of them, rather than letting them control you. For example, if criticism bothers you, ask yourself why. Is it because deep down you fear not being good enough? If being ignored upsets you, is it because you associate it with feeling unworthy? When you dig deep and uncover the root of your reactions, you gain the ability to change them. Instead of reacting emotionally, you pause and remind yourself that your worth is not determined by others. You begin to separate your emotions from the situation, allowing you to stay calm and composed. Self-awareness also helps you understand your emotional patterns. Some people get angry quickly but calm down just as fast. Others hold on to resentment for days or even weeks. Some people lash out when they feel hurt, while others shut down completely. When you analyze your own emotional habits, you gain insight into how you handle stress, conflict, and negativity. The more you understand these patterns, the easier it becomes to break free from them. Instead of falling into the same emotional cycles, you develop the power to choose different responses. Another key aspect of self-awareness is observing your thoughts. Many people don't realize how much their thoughts influence their emotions. If you constantly tell yourself that people are rude, disrespectful, or out to get you, you will always feel on edge. But if you train yourself to see situations from a more neutral or positive perspective, your emotional reactions change. For example, instead of thinking this person is trying to insult me, you can think maybe they're having a bad day. Instead of assuming the worst, you give yourself the chance to stay calm and unbothered. Self-awareness also teaches you the difference between what you can and cannot control. Many people waste energy trying to change others, hoping to make them kinder, more understanding, or more respectful. But the truth is, you cannot control how people act. You can only control how you respond. When you focus on what is within your power, your thoughts, emotions, and reactions, you stop feeling like a victim. You stop blaming others for how you feel and start taking responsibility for your own inner peace. Another powerful benefit of self-awareness is that it allows you to stay present. Most emotional reactions are not about the present moment, but about past wounds or future worries. Someone says something rude, and instead of just responding to that moment, you connect it to every past experience where you felt disrespected, or you worry about what it means for the future, whether they will continue to treat you that way. But when you are self-aware, you bring yourself back to the present. You realize that this is just one moment, one comment, one situation. It does not define you, and it does not have to affect your peace. Self-awareness is a lifelong practice. It requires daily reflection, observation, and honesty with yourself. But the more you develop it, the less reactive you become. You no longer let small things upset you. You no longer take everything personally. You no longer allow external situations to dictate your emotions. Instead, you become grounded, calm, and in control. You respond to life with wisdom rather than impulse, and in doing so, you free yourself from unnecessary anger and frustration. Letting go of the need for validation is one of the most liberating things you can do for yourself. So many people live their lives in a constant state of stress, frustration, and disappointment simply because they are too focused on what others think of them. They base their happiness, self-worth, and emotional stability on the approval of those around them. But when you rely on external validation to feel good about yourself, you give other people the power to control your emotions. The moment you stop seeking validation from others, you take back control of your peace and confidence. One of the main reasons people feel bothered by others is that they are secretly hoping for approval. They want to be liked, respected, and accepted, and when that doesn't happen, they feel hurt. If someone criticizes them, they take it personally. If someone doesn't acknowledge their efforts, they feel unappreciated. If someone disagrees with their opinions, they feel offended, but this only happens when their sense of self is dependent on external sources. The reality is, no matter how hard you try, you will never be able to make everyone approve of you. Some people will like you and some won't. Some will respect you and others won't. Some will agree with you and some will always have something negative to say. If you spend your life chasing approval, you will always feel frustrated and emotionally exhausted. True confidence comes from within. It is built when you stop looking for others to validate you and start validating yourself. Instead of waiting for someone to tell you that you are worthy, you tell yourself. Instead of needing people to recognize your efforts, you recognize them yourself. Instead of seeking permission to be who you are, you give yourself that permission. When you develop this level of self-acceptance, you become immune to the opinions of others. Their words no longer have power over you because your worth is no longer dependent on them. One of the most powerful mindset shifts is understanding that other people's opinions are just reflections of their own perspectives, not absolute truths. If someone criticizes you, it often says more about them than it does about you. People judge based on their own experiences, insecurities, and biases. What they say about you is filtered through their own lens. Instead of internalizing their words, you can choose to see them as nothing more than personal opinions. And personal opinions do not define who you are. The fear of judgment is another reason people struggle to let go of validation. They worry about what others will think if they fail, make a mistake, or do something different from the norm. This fear holds them back from living authentically. They adjust their behavior, suppress their true selves, and constantly try to fit into a mold that isn't even their own. But when you stop caring about judgment, you unlock a new level of freedom. You start making choices based on what truly matters to you rather than what will gain approval from others. One of the biggest signs that someone is free from the need for validation is that they live unapologetically. They speak their truth without fear. They pursue their goals without worrying about whether people will approve. They embrace their individuality and do not seek permission to be themselves. They don't waste time overanalyzing how others perceive them because they understand that everyone sees the world differently. Instead of shrinking themselves to fit into expectations, they stand tall in their authenticity. Letting go of validation also means being at peace with not being liked by everyone. Many people waste energy trying to please others, fearing rejection or disapproval. But the truth is, even the most kind, successful, and admirable people in history had critics. No one is universally liked, and trying to achieve that is an impossible and exhausting task. The sooner you accept that not everyone will approve of you, the sooner you free yourself from unnecessary emotional burdens. When you stop seeking validation, you develop an unshakable inner strength. You are no longer swayed by compliments or criticisms. You no longer depend on others to feel good about yourself. You walk through life with a sense of confidence that cannot be taken away. You gain emotional independence, and with it, a profound sense of peace. You become unbothered, unstoppable, and truly free. Mastering emotional detachment is one of the most effective ways to remain unbothered by people and situations. Most people get angry, frustrated, or upset because they are emotionally attached to how things should be, how others should behave, or how they should be treated. They personalize everything, taking every comment, action, or situation as if it directly affects their worth or happiness. But when you learn to detach emotionally, you free yourself from unnecessary stress. You become an observer of life rather than a victim of circumstances, and this shift in perspective allows you to remain calm, composed, and in control. Emotional detachment does not mean suppressing your feelings or becoming cold and indifferent. It means developing a mindset where you are no longer reactive to things that do not deserve your energy. It is about recognizing that most things in life are temporary, that people's actions are reflections of themselves, and that external events do not have to dictate your inner peace. When you detach, you create a space between your emotions and your reactions. Instead of immediately getting triggered, you pause, analyze, and decide whether something is even worth your attention. One of the biggest reasons people struggle with emotional detachment is that they are overly invested in controlling everything. They want people to act a certain way, situations to unfold as they expect, and life to always go according to their plan. But life is unpredictable. People will disappoint you, situations will change, and things will not always go your way. The more you try to control everything, the more frustrated you become. Emotional detachment allows you to release this need for control and accept things as they come, without feeling shaken by them. A key aspect of emotional detachment is learning to let go of past hurts. Many people hold on to grudges, replaying painful memories in their minds and keeping themselves emotionally attached to negative experiences. But holding on to the past only drains your energy. Detachment means understanding that what happened is over, and no amount of anger or resentment can change it. Instead of reliving past pain, you focus on the present and choose to move forward without carrying emotional baggage. Another part of detachment is not taking things personally. People's words and actions are often influenced by their own struggles, insecurities, and experiences. When someone is rude, dismissive, or hurtful, it usually has more to do with them than with you. Emotionally attached people internalize everything, feeling personally attacked when someone disagrees with them or treats them unfairly. But detached people understand that not everything is about them. They do not let others' negativity become their own. Practicing emotional detachment also helps in dealing with criticism and judgment. People will always have opinions. Some will praise you, and some will criticize you. If you are emotionally attached to validation, you will feel elated when people approve of you and devastated when they don't. But when you detach, you stop letting praise inflate your ego and criticism deflate your confidence. You realize that other people's opinions do not define your worth. And this mindset allows you to remain steady regardless of what is said about you. Another major benefit of emotional detachment is that it allows you to handle conflicts with clarity and maturity. When you are too emotionally invested in proving a point, winning an argument, or making someone see things your way, you become reactive. You get defensive, aggressive, or overly emotional. But when you detach, you approach conflicts with logic rather than emotion. You listen without feeling the need to react instantly. You respond with composure instead of impulse. You recognize that not every battle is worth fighting, and you choose your energy wisely. Detachment also brings a sense of peace in relationships. Many people experience unnecessary pain because they expect too much from others. They get upset when people do not meet their expectations or when relationships change. But emotional detachment helps you accept that people will come and go, that relationships evolve, and that you cannot force connections to last forever. Instead of clinging to expectations, you appreciate people while they are in your life, but do not allow their presence or absence to dictate your happiness. Another powerful aspect of emotional detachment is the ability to stay present. When you are too emotionally attached, your mind constantly shifts between regretting the past and worrying about the future. But detachment allows you to fully embrace the present moment, enjoying what is happening now without unnecessary emotional weight. It helps you see things clearly, make better decisions, and live with a calm mind. You stop reacting to every little thing, and instead you respond with wisdom, self-control, and inner peace. Practicing mindfulness is one of the most effective ways to remain unbothered by people and external circumstances. Mindfulness is the ability to be fully present in the moment, observing thoughts, emotions, and situations without becoming controlled by them. Most people live in a constant state of reaction, allowing their emotions to dictate their responses without realizing that they have the power to choose how they feel. When you practice mindfulness, you develop the ability to observe situations objectively without getting caught up in unnecessary stress or negativity. One of the key benefits of mindfulness is that it allows you to break free from automatic reactions. Many people go through life reacting impulsively to situations, getting angry, frustrated, or upset without stopping to think about whether their emotions are justified. When you become mindful, you create a space between what happens and how you respond. Instead of instantly reacting with frustration, you pause, take a deep breath, and assess the situation with a clear mind. This small shift changes everything because it gives you control over your emotions rather than letting them control you. Mindfulness also helps you become aware of your thoughts. The mind is constantly generating thoughts, some positive, some negative, and many unnecessary. Most of the time, people are not even aware of how much their thoughts influence their emotions. They assume that if something upsetting happens, they have no choice but to feel bad. But in reality, it is not the event itself that causes distress, it is the interpretation of the event. Mindfulness teaches you to observe your thoughts without identifying with them. You start to notice when your mind is creating unnecessary negativity. And instead of getting caught in those thoughts, you let them pass like clouds in the sky. Another powerful aspect of mindfulness is its ability to keep you grounded in the present moment. Most of the frustration, anger, and stress people experience comes from either dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. They replay old arguments in their minds, hold on to past grievances, or stress about things that haven't even happened yet. But when you practice mindfulness, you train your mind to stay in the present. You realize that the past cannot be changed and the future is uncertain. So the only thing that truly matters is what is happening right now. When you focus on the present, you naturally feel calmer and more in control. Mindfulness also teaches you to accept things as they are rather than resisting reality. Many people experience frustration because they wish things were different. They get angry when people don't behave the way they expect, or they feel stressed when situations don't go according to plan. But resistance only creates more suffering. Mindfulness helps you develop an attitude of acceptance, where you acknowledge reality without trying to fight it. This does not mean that you become passive or stop making changes in your life, but rather that you stop wasting energy on things you cannot control. One of the most practical ways to cultivate mindfulness is through deep breathing. When you focus on your breath, you bring your attention back to the present moment and calm your nervous system. This is especially useful in moments of stress or frustration. If someone says something that would normally upset you, instead of reacting immediately, you take a slow, deep breath. This simple action creates a pause that allows you to choose how to respond rather than acting on impulse. Over time, this practice trains your mind to remain calm and composed in any situation. Mindfulness also enhances emotional resilience. When you are mindful, you develop the ability to observe your emotions without being controlled by them. You might still feel anger, disappointment, or frustration, but instead of letting those emotions dictate your actions, you acknowledge them and let them pass. This is a crucial skill because emotions are temporary. They come and go like waves in the ocean. When you recognize that emotions are not permanent, you stop getting stuck in them. You learn to experience feelings without letting them take over your mind. Another benefit of mindfulness is that it helps you detach from external validation. When you are mindful, you become more aware of your own inner state rather than constantly seeking approval from others. You stop worrying about what people think of you because you are focused on your own peace and presence. Instead of reacting emotionally to criticism or judgment, you observe those opinions without letting them affect your sense of self. This creates a powerful inner stability that makes you unshakable in any situation. Practicing mindfulness also improves the way you interact with others. When you are fully present in conversations, you listen more deeply and respond more thoughtfully. You stop taking things personally and instead approach interactions with curiosity and understanding. This makes relationships smoother and reduces unnecessary conflicts. Instead of getting caught up in emotional drama, you remain centered and respond with wisdom. The more mindful you become, the less you are affected by external negativity. You learn to stay calm, clear-headed, and at peace, no matter what is happening around you. Embracing inner peace as your highest priority transforms the way you react to people and situations. Most people live in a state of emotional turmoil because they prioritize external validation, success, or control over their own peace of mind. They allow circumstances, other people's opinions, and unpredictable events to dictate how they feel. But when inner peace becomes the most important thing in your life, you naturally stop being affected by negativity, criticism, or external chaos. You no longer allow anything or anyone to disturb your mental and emotional balance because you recognize that peace is a choice, not a reaction to perfect conditions. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to maintain peace is that they are always trying to fix or control things outside of themselves. They want other people to act differently, they want life to go according to their expectations, and they want everything to be predictable. But the reality is that external circumstances will never be fully within your control. People will have their own opinions, unexpected challenges will arise, and life will always be uncertain. If your peace depends on everything being perfect, you will never truly have it. Inner peace comes from accepting that life is unpredictable and choosing to remain calm regardless of what happens. A key aspect of embracing inner peace is learning to detach from negativity. This means not engaging in unnecessary conflicts, not getting involved in drama, and not letting other people's emotions dictate your own. When someone tries to provoke you, you have a choice. You can react with anger and frustration, or you can remain centered and unbothered. The moment you decide that your peace is more important than winning an argument or proving a point, you free yourself from emotional stress. You begin to see that many things are simply not worth your energy and ours, and walking away from negativity is a sign of strength, not weakness. Another important factor in maintaining peace is learning to forgive. Holding on to resentment, grudges, or past pain only creates emotional heaviness. Many people stay angry for years because they refuse to let go of what someone did to them. But in reality, carrying anger only harms the person holding it. Forgiveness is not about excusing bad behavior or letting someone off the hook. It is about freeing yourself from the emotional burden of negativity. When you forgive, you are choosing your peace over your pain. You are releasing yourself from the past and allowing yourself to move forward with a lighter heart. Practicing gratitude is another powerful way to cultivate inner peace. When you focus on what you have rather than what you lack, your entire perspective shifts. Many people live in a constant state of dissatisfaction because they are always thinking about what they don't have, what went wrong, or what could be better. But when you train your mind to appreciate the present moment, your stress naturally decreases. Gratitude reminds you that no matter what is happening, there is always something to be thankful for. This mindset keeps you grounded and prevents unnecessary frustration. Creating a peaceful environment is also crucial. The people you surround yourself with, the content you consume, and the habits you practice all contribute to your mental and emotional state. If you are constantly around negativity, gossip, or toxic influences, it will be difficult to maintain peace. Choosing to spend time in calming environments, engaging in positive conversations, and setting boundaries with negative people helps protect your inner world. You cannot control everything around you, but you can control what you allow into your space. Another essential part of embracing inner peace is learning to slow down. Many people live in a state of constant rush, always moving from one task to another, never pausing to breathe or reflect. This creates unnecessary stress and anxiety. Taking moments to slow down, whether through meditation, deep breathing, or simply sitting in silence, helps reset your mind and body. When you slow down, you become more present, more aware, and more in tune with yourself. This allows you to respond to life with clarity rather than reacting out of stress or frustration. One of the most important realizations in achieving inner peace is understanding that your happiness does not depend on anyone else. Many